I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. And today is a really long episode because, full disclosure, I brought on a really good friend who happens to be an amazing real estate pro in Southern California. She also happens to do coaching and instructing. She's full of social media advice. So if you are a real estate agent or broker, this is going to be your jam. And if you're not, there's still going to be some really good information for you here. So buckle up and enjoy the conversation with Barb Betts, and I'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Before you get the rest of the story, I'd love to share a quick message from today's sponsor. If you've never heard of Follow Up Boss, you're going to love it. And it's going to get you organized in a way that will actually impact your business for profitability and for better excellence with those you're serving. For more information, go to followupboss.com/crazy. Tell them where you're located, how long you've been in real estate. Tell them my favorite joke about you and your husband. You can tell them all the pieces.
I will tell them all the pieces. So for those of you that I don't know, my name is Barb Betts. Actually, formally, I should joke, Barbara Betts. It's actually a true story that as I started kind of speaking and training a little bit more, we started a little show at my local association called Live with Barb and Ray as a play on Live with Kelly and Ryan. And we would update our members and do this little live show. And it was a huge hit with our members. And then as I started going around LA and Orange County area in my market, people started calling me Barb because they were so used to the show. And then as I started speaking and training, Barb Betts looked better on a logo than Barbara Betts and BB. And it's a lot of hard things to say. And so I've actually found that I've kind of dropped the off. And true story, Phil Hawkins, my CEO of Pacific West, best CEO in the state of California, in my opinion, he actually refuses to call me Barb and shows me every time in his phone how I'm still Barbara Betts, like the OG. So anyways, I am in the Long Beach, California area, which I always say is cemented exactly halfway between LAX and Disneyland. So that gives you a little bit of a geographic representation of where I am. I have been in real estate for 20 years. I have been a real estate broker for the last 7 years, owned my own company for 6 of those 7 years with my amazing husband and business partner, Harold, who you mentioned. And Leigh is laughing. If you're listening, you can't hear her laughing, but she loves it because when Leigh and I first met, we were at a dinner. Leigh was speaking for our Women's Council Network chapter the next day, and we were taking the speaker out to dinner, and I was so excited to meet Leigh Brown. I was like major fangirling. I felt like I was meeting Mickey Mouse. Not that you're a character, but you are a character. So anyhow, we're at dinner, and somehow my husband's name gets brought up. And Leigh looks at me and goes, "What's your husband's name?" And I said, "Harold." And she goes, "You guys are like the senior citizen couple. You're like the old couple." And I kind of looked at her and I said, "Well, a Harold couldn't marry an Ashley. I mean, it just wouldn't sound right."
It never work. That would be trophy wife territory.
Yep. So
we'll just give him credit. He did choose well.
He did choose very well. Yeah. So anyways, work with my husband, business partner, and then also have a true passion for organized and volunteer real estate at the local, state, and national level. And then not more importantly, but also in connection to who I was as a little girl, I love speaking and training and educating and helping the real estate industry be better. So that's me.
All right. So wait a minute. I don't know this connection to you as a little girl. Did you have a little classroom in your house?
Leigh. Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. I was the girl where going to the teacher supply store was cooler than going to the toy store. And my mom she actually educated paramedics and taught paramedic school. And I used to go to her paramedic school on the off weeks, and I would go play in her giant college classroom and put out my own Scantrons and put out my own tests. And I had a seating chart. Girl, I had the cutest grade book ever. I made up names. I had it all. So when they say you are most designed to do whatever you wanted to do when you were a child, that is actually true. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Is that real? Because I've never heard that. And people are always poking at me for what I said I was going to be when I was a little girl.
What were you going to? Oh, Lord, I don't think I want to know this.
President of the United States. I started in the 4th grade.
Okay. But let's talk about this for a second. But does that shock you now with your passion for advocacy and your passion for what's going on in America and how it affects.
Well, perhaps, except that I saw what happened to President Obama's hair from the time he was a senator until he finished his 2 terms. He went from normal colored hair to a head full of white and gray. And so when I saw what happened to him, and he was not an old president, he was normal age. And I was like, oh, Lord, I don't know how much I have to pay my hairdresser if I go down that road. So maybe Secretary of State would be where I belong.
Well, but I think it adds up. What you wanted to do as a little girl is still in your heart today.
That's so interesting. All right. So do you follow, I know you love Instagram, and of course, we'll talk about your love for social media and what it does for you, but there is an account on a comedian out of Charlotte, Christopher Ryan Stamey. Have you found him yet?
No, I have not.
He's so funny, but I wonder if it translates to the West Coast because he's right here in Charlotte and he's freaking hilarious, but he pokes at church ladies and the old church stuff. And he did a reel not too long ago where he talked about those of us that used to stalk the Sunday school supply closet where all the craft stuff was, like little felt people for the boards and the glitter and the glue and the stamper markers that had a stamp on the end. And I sent it to my fellow former Sunday school teacher people. I'm like, this is us. It was really connected. And so you might connect to him on a
I probably would.
level. It would be interesting.
I probably would.
How about social media before you jump in? Oh, you can jump in? Tell me.
No,
something.
I was going to say one more thing that I think is fascinating. You may have not heard before. So I know this is bizarre, but it correlates to what we're saying. Michael Jackson. Okay. Think about the Neverland Ranch and the carnival and amusement park he created at his own home. Do you know why they say he did that? It's because in his childhood, he got taken away from a childhood and put into music and put on stages. And so he is stuck back in his childhood. And that's the moment where he had this Neverland youthful idea. Okay, you can just cut that out because I don't even know why that.
Well, no, we're not cutting any of that out.
Yes, you are. You're cutting that out. You are cutting that out. That did not come out the way I wanted it to come out.
So I actually always felt sorry for him being that little tiny widget with all of that stage presence and all the stuff their parents required. And his dad was such a manager. And we won't talk about the other side of Neverland.
Of course.
We'll talk about it as too much pressure on a small person. However, let's just talk about the level of talent he had that has continued to sustain even after his death.
Yes.
And frankly, overcame all of the rumors and the gossip, which I don't know if they were sustained or not. I wasn't there and I don't know, and innocent until proven guilty and all of that. But that's quite a journey.
Good thing you told me you edit this because we're going to edit that out. I'm going to make Michelle edit it out by just saying, we're going to edit that out, Michelle. We're taking that part out. Let's go back to social media.
Or maybe we'll leave this as a snippet that entices people to come to the episode because they're going to be like, what is going on here? But it might not burnish our reputation.
Okay. Anyways, moving on.
All right. So I mentioned briefly social media. You are one of the absolute stars on Instagram in the real estate space. I'm curious as to how you landed there. Was it because it was a sister to Facebook or you came there instead of Facebook? And how did you build an audience there? And talk to us a little bit about what it's done for you, because as you know, a lot of realtors and regular people are very allergic to social media. Even if they enjoy it, they're panicked about the best way to use it. And so they wind up in this lurking mode, which is fine. We all lurk sometimes, but talk to us a little bit about going beyond lurking.
So how did I end up on Instagram? That's actually a great question. And it's because I got tired of Facebook, and Facebook being, if we can use the definition, keyboard warriors, right? And it just became everyone's opinions. And I like opinions, but I like opinions in a very respectful manner. And I just was tired of just all the negativity and ugliness going on Facebook. The Facebook groups just got too much. And I thought, I just want to go see pretty pictures of people's kids and vacations. And Instagram, as you know, started out as a photo sharing platform. It was not a place to have conversations at first. It was a place to put a picture of your lunch or a picture of your dog or a picture of your kids or the ocean. And I think right about when Instagram started really pushing stories is where I saw an opportunity. Because one of the things that I struggle with in my business is selling real estate for 20 years and doing it by relationship. I struggle talking to my database all the time, right? Like you can only call so many people in a day. You can only start so many conversations. We're human. And so what I realized was by using stories, I could broadcast to my database every day. I could start a conversation by simply talking about something I was going to do for the day, or a place I went to lunch, or a bottle of wine that I drank, or frankly, my best performing story ever that started the most conversations to this day was during COVID in the early days. And we were not supposed to leave our home. Like you felt like you were a literal criminal if you left your home in California. I know it wasn't like that everywhere, but friends, it was like that in California. I remember my husband would go show houses secretly, and I would make sure he had the story of where he was going in case he got pulled over. Like you're going to your mom's, you're going to Yorba Linda, which means you're going to your mom's in Corona to pick up a pharmacy, a prescription, even though his mother lives in Arizona. But anyways, my best performing story was my very best client is a nurse, and she had to get to the hospital. And her husband was not home yet. He was on his way home. They have 3 little kids. And she called me and she's like, can you please come over and just watch the kids for like 20 minutes? I've got to get to the hospital. So what did I do? Well, first of all, one of them is my godchild. So of course I went over there to help her. As I was going over there, I was getting in my car and I was walking down the driveway and I tripped on a crack in my driveway and I fell face first onto my driveway. Like busted my face open, came back in the house, got a bag of peas to put on my face and cried my eyes out driving to my client's house. By the time I got to her house, my face is busted up, my eyes black and blue. I get there, she opens the door. Of course, she's a nurse, so she checks me out, deems that I'm fine, goes to the hospital, and I sat my goddaughter on my lap and we did a story about it. Now, they're a Filipino family, so I'm a ninong. So if you're a Filipino, you understand it's a big deal. And she got on the stories with me and talked about how Ninong hurt herself coming over to watch them. And I made a joke that COVID got me. Like, I'm not sick, but this is my punishment for leaving the house. And I'll tell you, Leigh, I've never had more conversations on one day on social media than that. And here's what I teach realtors. What I teach real estate professionals is the reason you do stories and the reason you show your personal life and the reason you document your day is because you're starting conversations and you're teaching the algorithm that you have a relationship with somebody. And so all of those people that responded to my face planting story, the next day when I talked about maybe a new showing restriction or how we were going to get into property or something, everyone heard it because they all responded to the face planting the night before. Or then when I came home that night and my son had taped out my body on the driveway because it was such a family joke. So anyways, stories work. And that's how I really understood what we really need to be doing on stories every day is broadcasting and sharing and putting out conversation starters so people can talk back to us.
Right. So first of all, let's address the fact that you're obviously amazing parents, that you came home to your son making an outline of your body on the driveway. So high five for excellence.
If you know my son, you'll understand that is his personality.
My next question to you has to do with that algorithm you mentioned. When you look at how our messages can be controlled by the tech platforms when they decide what should and shouldn't be seen, what if you have a sizable audience and sizable number of subscribers, or even if you have 100, but it's only seen by 5? How do you get that message amplified when there's rules that you don't have access to? What's the secret?
Great question. And the secret is you have to build the relationship the other way with the client or with the person you want to see the information. So social media is a two-way street. You're putting the information out, and yes, you are correct. The algorithm is choosing who to show that information to. But how you can, if you will, train the algorithm. You can't trick it. You can't control it. Don't let anybody tell you, if I see one more Leigh Facebook post of, if I put this in my feed and the first 10 people that respond, we'll change the algorithm and we'll stop Facebook. You guys stop. Stop.
You're not that big. I love y'all.
Stop. Yeah, just stop. 10 people saying
can't change the algorithm. And if Kim Kardashian can't do it, that's
right. Yeah. But here's how you can train the algorithm, just like anything else in life. You train the algorithm by showing Facebook and Instagram that you actually have a relationship with somebody. And that goes both ways. Because if Leigh posts something on her social media and I comment and respond, and then that same day or the next day or even a week later, Leigh responds to something I put on social media, we have now told Facebook and Instagram that we have a relationship. And Facebook and Instagram will start showing more of us to each other. It is a proven fact. It's why if you even have lunch with somebody you haven't seen in a while, if you go to a board meeting and there's people in the room that you haven't seen in a while, realtor friends, check me out on this. You go to your next state meeting and you're seeing people you haven't seen in 6 months, I guarantee you that night and the next day, you'll start seeing their social media posts. Our phones are talking to each other too.
Our phones are creepy. So let me ask you a question. All right. So if I go to my stories,
Yep.
I click on activity and I see the viewers.
Yep.
Go to each of them now and see if they have it, or just look for the circle people.
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. Or here's what I do. What I do is when I am doing my lead generation, when I'm doing my outgoing connections, which I do every day, because if you're not contacting your database daily, you need to start yesterday. When I go to make a phone call or even a text message just to check in on somebody. Now, I know Leigh Brown does not like the text messages, but they work for me.
I'm old. You're young.
Although I do call people, but here's what I do first. I go to their social media first and I comment or engage as long as it was something posted recently. Okay. Do not be that creepy person that goes and comments on something from 6 months ago. Okay. That's weird.
Really bad. But how far back can you go? Like 3 days? I think
I would
okay.
I would say a week, honestly, because I see stuff in my feed. Because don't forget, if I post something today and then it doesn't get a lot of traction, but for whatever reason, a bunch of people start commenting on day 3 or 4, that post will live organically, I would say, for about a week. It's not unusual to go back.
Is it just in your feed?
What'd you say?
In the stories or in your feed?
Both.
Well,
in stories are only going to stay 24 hours. In the feed, I'm saying you could see stuff back as far as a week and you could still comment and engage on it.
Okay, so this story has a whole bunch of hearts on it.
Yep.
I want to interact with the hearts.
If you want to interact with the hearts, you have to open up the profile and then either respond on their stories or just send them a message back.
So what about this creeper that I can't stand? I can't block him.
Yes,
I don't know if you're allowed to in real estate. He's in real estate.
Well, that would be a great legal question. And I'm not an attorney. I will disclaim that right now. But why can't you block people that you don't want to have a relationship with? That would be saying you have to accept every friend that you have.
Because I'm in leadership in my state. And so am I allowed to block him even though his private messages that he sends me are this long?
It may be politically not cool for you to block him, but I don't understand why you legally couldn't block him.
I'm a practice. Y'all don't know who I'm talking about. I ain't calling him.
You're so silly. But yes, the whole point is, I don't know another place. The reason I love stories so much is I don't know another place on the internet where you cannot hide that you watch someone's story.
TikTok. You can't hide on TikTok because I can't follow my daughter's boyfriend because then he'll know his girlfriend's mother is following.
Exactly.
And I'm really just a mom, so I don't understand.
But Facebook and Instagram, someone can look at your post and not like it or comment on it, and you have no idea. And someone can look at your feed, but the second they watch your story, it's going to show up that they watched it. And I'm telling you, if you would pay attention to your stories, if you pay attention, especially when you're talking about real estate, everybody that's watching and watching consistently cares about you, likes you, and would probably give you business if you would just freaking ask them.
Right. This is so enlightening. And then I'm also really enlightened. I never thought about that. Right. I like vanity metrics and I know I'm not supposed to. And I teach not to worry about vanity metrics. And what do? Stare at them. Because I've noticed my story counts have gone way down.
Because you're human.
I used to get all of these, 800 views on a story, and now I'm down to 200.
Well, that's just Instagram in general.
I think I'm being suppressed. I don't trust them. But anyway, so I just need to go look at activity and better interact with people that I want to interact with. So
exactly.
I would probably go look for my past clients in this list.
Yes.
Interact with them first. I would prioritize my interaction.
Yeah. Or just pull up your database. Who are the next 5 people you need to call? I'm sure you have a list that you rotate through.
I have a Rolodex and I spin it and it's like playing.
No, Leigh Brown, do not tell me that. No, Leigh Brown, stop it. No,
you have a Rolodex.
Stop it. You do not do that. You do not do that. No, you do.
But after I talk to him, I make a note in my database. I do.
Do not listen to Leigh Brown. Do not listen to her. You need a systematic way to contact your database. And if you don't have one, you need one yesterday.
You can also hire agents who can make all the regular phone calls. And then I like to play roulette, but it's more fun that way. I need to have fun to prospect.
You are killing me right now. You're killing me. You do not do that.
If you're not watching the video, friends, you don't know what's happening to Barb right now because she's so horrified by my old lady behavior that her technology brain is literally
cannot comprehend what you're saying right now.
But it also means I used to write offers in triplicate, press hard 3 copies. You remember that?
I've done that.
One for the client, one for the others.
Yes. I actually.
I think we probably explained them better before we had DocuSign. And speaking of technology and DocuSign, I was cracking up. I was with a buyer client electronically last week. I was writing her offer. And I said, I'm going to talk to you on the phone when I send this so we can walk through it before you click anything. So I got her on the phone and we're on document 1 and I'm explaining it and I'm answering questions. She's like, I already clicked. I'm like, I told you not to click. You have questions, we get to document 2. And she's like, well, I'm done. I was like, oh, please reopen the document because we're going through all of this. And she laughed and she said, but I trust you. And I said, I appreciate that. It don't work that way. We're going to have to look at every line here because you're changing states. You have kids coming with you. I want you to be super okay with this purchase.
Oh my gosh.
But it was.
Well, at least she trusted you. There's a lot to say there.
Oh, she does. But it worries me, though, in real estate that some people go so far into technology that they stop doing the very important work of explaining what somebody is clicking on because that's a legally binding document. And then you think about social media and that sometimes we forget those interactions matter as much or more as our traditional interactions on the telephone. And so this whole concept goes back to where you started the way you built your business, which is on relationship marketing. And so let's talk a little bit about how you came to that conclusion, as that's where your business was thriving and how you've expanded in that space. And especially in a changing economic environment, my guess is that relationship marketing is ever more important. So do expound a little bit more here.
Well, here's the deal. My story is that I was taught to door knock because I live in a community and area where we have 50 by 100 lots.
All right, so stop. Do you love door knocking? I love door knocking.
Will you hold, please? 50 by 100 lots, taught to door knock, very short to the porch, knock on the door. Did you know your neighbor down the street is selling? Have you ever thought about buying or selling your home? I got chased by a dog, Leigh, by a dog.
Yeah, but what kind of, you're in California, it was probably a tiny
dog. It was about this big. You can't see my hands, but it was a little, I call it a whippersnapper, but it was an ankle biter. And it chased me down the street. And thank God there was no Ring doorbells in 2003. Thank God there was no cell phone cameras, but the gardener was down the street and he was mowing and blowing a lawn and blew that little sucker back to its house. And I drove back to my manager's office and I said, this is not what I signed up for. I hate this. I just want to help my friends and family. I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, well, why don't you go help your friends and family? And I'm like, huh? And he's like, well, you've lived here your whole life. You know everybody. Just go talk to your friends and family. Ask them for business. I'm like, is that all you have to do? And I started doing it. And I started building relationships. And I started communicating that I was good at what I did. And I started making sure I was marketing to them and nurturing them and taking care of them like humans take care of humans. And before you knew it, people were telling me about their mothers and their brothers and their cousins and their neighbors and their coworkers. And that's how I did it. And I haven't turned back. I honestly am not qualified to do real estate any other way. I'm not qualified to market any other way.
Well, it's what you know. And also you've never had to purchase a backpack blower and have it promotionally coded with your brand to blow a dog down.
But
here, don't anybody tag in the animal activist because the dog was not harmed.
No, it probably still lives there. It was one of those that lives forever. It was on Cane Hill. I still remember the street I was on. Okay, but hear me now. One of my pet peeves in real estate is with trainers and educators and coaches. And Leigh and I do obviously our fair share of that. But one thing you will never hear me say is that doesn't work. Because I firmly believe that everything in real estate eventually works if you do it consistently. It's a matter of how much time, energy, and money does it take you.
Some realtors do more business than others, and it's not just their great looks and their charm and amazing hair. It's their follow-up, y'all. People on average forget the marketing message after 16 days. Follow-Up Boss will plug into the system you're using. And yes, they integrate with over 250 different programs to help you get organized with your past clients and with those neighbors that frankly should be your future clients. And if you go to followupboss.com/crazy, you get a 30-day free trial to go see how this works for your business. I can promise you, the people who forgot you didn't mean to, they want to hear from you. So go to followupboss.com/crazy, and you'll suddenly figure out why all these top producers in the market are getting more business. It has to do with organization and detail work, and you can get there too. Followupboss.com/crazy for your 30-day free trial. Check it out. Let me know how it goes for you. For the people in the back.
It's just a matter of how much time, energy, and money it takes. Door knocking works. It takes a lot of freaking time and energy. May not take a lot of money.
Steps in and you get vitamin D.
Yep.
And if you need to be around people in short bursts, as I do, I'm a short burst person. It's so good. And
right?
Y'all, if you're not watching the video, you're missing out on Barb using the pointy mom finger thing. Like, look at the camera. She's like, it takes consistency. And I love this.
Okay. Direct mail works.
Our screen
Ton of money. It's expensive.
But not if you do it correctly.
Well, it can be expensive.
You're pointing at the screen because we got a picture of you pointing because this is hilarious.
Why do I do relationship marketing? Because it takes the least amount of time, energy, and money, as long as you like people. You have to like people. And then I would add on to that, I tell people all the time, some of these big teams and these big production numbers, and you hear these realtors and real estate professionals doing hundreds and 300 and 400 and 500 transactions. But I'll tell you right now, I'll put my P&L up against theirs any day, meaning the percentage of profit I keep. I do not sell as much. What'd you say?
Can do that because I
can. Absolutely.
Conversation.
Yeah.
And they may not have such a document to rely on.
Well, if you're a real estate professional, you're a business owner and you need a profit and loss statement.
Mm-hmm.
Just finger.
Mom finger there. But it's also a great reminder, though, for anybody listening to this who's wondering why we jumped in that, or why I jumped on that space. But if you want to do relationship marketing, or you want to do targeted sphere mailings, or you want to do door knocking, you had better be tracking so that you know where your dollars are actually. Well, this is where I do love Kevin on Shark Tank, where he says his dollars are soldiers and he expects them to bring back prisoners, which I think is.
Ooh, I've never heard that.
We love Shark Tank as a family. It's one of the shows that we can watch all together. It doesn't have smut and crap on it and actually gets the kids thinking. And then we go look and see if the business is still around, and we have a little pool going for that. But he wants his dollars out working and bringing more dollars back. And it does concern me how many realtors will say, this thing from Barb Betts, this relationship marketing, it sounds good, but I can go spend $1,000 a month over here on some leads. And then they're just hoping that there is something in that cold, hard batch that will turn into something. Yep. And it may work for your business. But if you're not watching to see what dollars come back off of that outflow, yep, you will wind up out of business or in the
absolutely
sites of the IRS. And I don't care to be in their conversations at all.
People need to know you, like you, and trust you. And people will do business if they know you, like you, and trust you. But please don't ever think that just because someone knows you and likes you means they trust you. You've got to give them a reason to trust you, which is where relationship marketing comes in. You can't just be nice to people. Being nice to people, you're a nice person.
Yeah, that's not the kind of realtor they want.
No, you got to prove that you're also good at what you do. And when you get those three together, the know, like, and trust, that's where you can sustain a business through every market we've ever had through relationships. Now, I will fast forward now to the point we are at today. And I have been telling realtors this for the last 2 years. It's going to take more. Even my own agents and my brokerage, we've had this conversation. In this current market, high interest rate, people just refinance down to 2%. Whoever you had in your database, whatever you did last year, you got to double down right now. You can't, when people say all you've ever done is relationship marketing, that's true. But even I'm having to double down right now. Even I'm having to add more people to my database. I'm having to call on more people. I'm having to build more relationships, because just what we did in the last 3 years is frankly what I've done my entire career is not going to be enough to sustain us going forward. So you got to do more.
Well, and when the market changes, everybody's retooling. And that's one thing that's interesting right now. You and I have both been in for so long. We've seen multiple market conditions, but it's been a long time since we dealt with people in financial distress because the distress was, how much do I bid? How much deposit can I come up with? And now I had this conversation with an agent yesterday, and I was working really hard to retain some zen and patience with her. She could not understand why anybody would go to foreclosure when they have equity. And after about 8 back and forth in the Instagram message, I think we finally got to the same place. She was mistaking financial solvency for equity, and it's not. Somebody may have had all the run up, but lost their job. We're going to see job losses as the market continues to evolve. And if you can't pay the note, most banks totally want to work it out. They don't want a whole bunch of news.
No, they don't.
But if you ignore them and you're not making the payments, spoiler alert, the bank can still come get it. But this goes into that relationship piece, because sometimes I think we get too lost in the cute and the pretty, thinking that builds a relationship. And there are people out there that need to know you're the one they can actually call and say, I don't know who else to say this to, but do you have any help? They're so afraid to say it out loud. And that's that trust factor, which is the third thing you mentioned. So give us a tried and true Barb Betts secret for building trust through online platforms with somebody that you have a surface relationship with and you want it to go deeper.
Okay. So, well, there's online and offline, right? And I think I want to touch on what you just said, because I just had this conversation with an agent an hour before I started talking to you today. And we were talking about, she was doing calendars in the neighborhood and she was doing football schedules. And I said, you know what? That's great for name recognition, but you are doing nothing to communicate trust. We need to stop being so mushy. Yes, I want you to build a relationship. Yes, I deliver pizza cutters and I give out all kinds of Valentine's Day gifts and wine and candy, and I take really good care of my people. But I also have to remember, I've got to prove that I'm a professional. And just giving football schedules and calendars does not prove you're a professional. In my offline world, I believe I mail a monthly postcard every single month to my database, and it's something of value. I have this one sitting on my desk right now. It says, it's impossible to sell high and buy low. And on the back, it talks about how what everyone wants right now is to sell in the market we were in and buy in this market, and it's impossible. Unless you're leaving the state and going somewhere else, or you're going to wait 3 years to buy a house. If you're going to move a mile down the road, you're not going to sell high and buy low. Sorry, try again. It doesn't work, right? This is communicating value. Now, online, you got to start storytelling. Online, you got to start doing educational content. Online, it is all about reels right now. If you cannot wrap your head around reels, you need to. Leigh, you do an excellent job every day with a reel, every single day. And it's not about singing and dancing anymore. Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun. And I do them every once in a while. But that's not what's going to communicate value. You do what I'm doing right now. You hold up your phone in front of your face, say a sentence, hit pause, say a sentence, hit pause, say a sentence, hit pause, stitch them together, add some captions, put a good thoughtful caption that someone can learn 3 steps to buying a home in this market, 3 steps to getting pre-approved right now, 3 steps to understanding that interest rates being at 7% is not the worst thing in the world. Like all the things that we know we're saying on, repeat. Make some video content and get it in front of your people, and then make it good enough that your database wants to share it. And that's the magic. When they start sharing it with others, that's how you find people that you didn't know before who know that they can trust you because your best client, Heather, just shared your video and they trust Heather.
And you make this great point on the heels of me talking about the vanity metrics, which are the number of views and the types of counts you get and comments on your postings. But if you're posting a cute dance and that's your brand, because maybe you were a professional dancer in a past life and this brings people into community with you, that may work. But if you post a cute little TikTok dance because that's what everybody's doing and you have 30,000 views, that's not what's going to define your brand unless you add it to something else. And everything Barb's talking about here is brand building. So if you had to describe your brand in one sentence to a rando who met you on the street because their friend Heather shared this video and they're like, oh, OMG, I saw you on the internet. And you're like, hey, what's up, friend? How do you describe your brand in one sentence?
In real estate, I'm a real estate trusted advisor. I'm a trusted advisor for your real estate needs because I don't just want to be a realtor. I don't just want to be someone who sells homes. I am the person you call. For instance, when Heather and Christian needed to put a roof on their house and they didn't have dollars in their pocket to do it. Who did they call to get advice on? Do we go to the credit union and take out a personal loan? And I said, absolutely not. You have $400,000 equity in your home. You take out a home equity line of credit. Those don't exist right now. Oh, yes, they do. Here's the person and the number to call. You get a home equity line of credit because investing in your home through a HELOC is exactly what you should be using those dollars for. Get the new roof on your house. Do not take out a personal loan at the credit union. Absolutely not. But who did they call on? They don't need to buy and sell real estate right now. They called their trusted advisor. I am a trusted advisor who specializes in real estate. And I want to be called when you have a problem with your home, when you need a plumber, when you need a painter, when you need to know where to go in the community, when you're confused, when you're financially struggling and you don't know how to use maybe your equity to help you get through a hard time. Because all of that work and answering the phone for all of those questions leads to, hey, Barb, my neighbor needs to sell. Hey, Barb, my mom needs to sell. Hey, Barb, my best friend needs to buy a house. That's how those phone calls happen. Those phone calls don't just happen because of a postcard. They happen because my clients trust us for everything, everything.
Well, it's because they connected you to the postcard.
Exactly.
Where you started. The football things can work great if you're driving around the neighborhood and you're wearing a jersey for the local team and carrying a ball, and then you're chit chatting with people. That connects the dots.
They're not bad. It's just that cannot be the only thing you do.
I mean, I give out my cookbooks because
of course you should
here, and I always squeeze a little real estate in there, and people can connect all of those dots because my brand is connected to the marketing that I'm putting out there. And I think that's something a lot of realtors get lost in because it's so interesting to me. We're in a space of amazing entrepreneurs who love serving the public. I mean, these are servant leaders every time you. And then they're building a business. It looks like them. It's got their values and they've got their offering to the public. And then they get into social media and start doing what everybody else does. And I'm like, wait, where's the awesome side of you? Instead, you posted, just listed, best year ever, best month ever. And they've lost that touch that says they do want to be the trusted advisor. I mean, honestly, wouldn't it be nice if every realtor who watched and listened to this went to their trusted resource list, picked your favorite vendor of whatever they help you with, pool, landscape, the people who do concrete work, plumber, electrician, handyman, paint, and you said, hey, let me do a little spotlight on you. And then we talked about the trusted advisors to whom we're connected. That would be some pretty cool content that we could see that would drive that conversation forward and also help the people that are on our trusted list ourselves.
The more that you can share the trusted people in your world to the people that trust you, because remember, a referral, although I am agnostic to using that word outgoing to our clients, you'll have to follow up with me later, figure out why. But in our real estate world, I use it all the time. But a referral, when someone gives you a referral, it is a transfer of trust.
You can say recommendation. They give you a recommendation.
Okay, they give recommendation. They are transferring their trust in you to someone else. The other person is saying, okay, well, if Leigh trusts her, then I'm going to take that trust and trust her myself. It's the biggest trust responsibility you have. And so when your clients trust you for real estate, then they trust you for everything else. You've got to have those people and you've got to highlight them and share them. More importantly, so that your clients even know you have them. But it also helps those people's businesses, and business to business is a whole nother tangent that we don't have time to talk about today. But there's magic over in there too. The business is everywhere. If agents would just open their eyes and stop thinking it's about the freaking house. I know you have the more than houses, and I believe it wholeheartedly. You are more than a sign in the yard. You're more than what you're paid. Your value is so much more than what you actually do. Your value is who you are. Period. And you are more than a real estate professional.
If you're doing the business well, let's just add that.
Well, of course. I'm talking to the people out there who are pros.
Right. The ones that haven't yet gone into that space, they should know there's totally room for more great realtors, but you're going to have to think about the holistic side of real estate
And yes, that was the tail of my cat. I was like, I just see this thing kept coming up. I'm like, what is she gonna? We used to have 3 cats. Now there's Sonic, and she's very needy now that we've lost 2 cats. So, I'm sorry to hear that. All my viewers, they died of old age. Don't be all stressed out. Because we talked about dogs, and now we talked about cats. I mean, we're very egalitarian here. We look out for everybody. Birds, they're outside; they can't come in. But there's a rooster behind me on the wall. I'll point out. There is a rooster and a farmer's market with a bunch of other animals. I'm working on that. I don't have pigs yet, or I don't want sheep. I do want goats though. So if my husband retires, we're getting goats. And just don't tell him because he doesn't understand that he's going to love them yet. And he Okay, so back to this brand building. Yeah. You gave me your explanation to a member of the buying and selling normal public. What if you run into a realtor superfan who has been watching you on Instagram, they're implementing the ideas, they maybe did your coaching with relationship marketing, and they're like, so you talked about relationship marketing? What? And they're trying to get their mind around it. Give me one sentence that explains your viewpoint as a trainer, instructor, general advocate for all of real estate. Well, number one, it would be, it's not about what you do. It's not about what you sell. It's about who you are. People want to know who you are, which is why when I made the decision going through my hair loss journey, oh, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to my social media. You'll figure it out in about 25 seconds flat. Going through this journey has taught me more about the power of authenticity and showing up as who we really are than anything else I've ever done in my entire life. And the more I show up authentically online, the more my clients trust me even more. It's funny that they'll say to my husband will go on an appointment and they'll say, wow, I love everything Barb's sharing online. I love how open and transparent and honest she is. It really makes me feel like we know why we can trust you guys. Just because I shared about a hair loss journey. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a hair loss journey to go out there and be authentic. You just need to go out and be you. To our real estate and realtor community, what I would say is when you find and when you understand how much more this industry is than houses, how much more this industry is than even your brand or your brokerage, that this industry is so much more than us. And that what we do at a local, state, and national level affects communities and it affects lives. And I think that's probably the number one thing and the number one reason I spend so much time on the road doing what you and I both do as advocates is because someone's got to do it. I hate saying that, but it's true. Someone's got to do it. But it really does change lives back at home. What we're doing in DC, what we're doing in your state capitals makes a difference. And you can make a difference too. You got to show up, you got to be educated, you got to be aware, you got to be present, and you got to understand that this is not a job. This is a career. This is a lifestyle. This is a profession. And more importantly, as we know per our code of ethics, it's who you are. You don't get to abandon your code of ethics. You don't get to go to the bar and decide you're not wearing your code of ethics hat, right? Like it becomes who you are. So I would leave you with that. Well, my favorite part of what you kept saying is we gotta. It's not you should, you could, you should consider it. It's you have to. And I think that was something I wish, I don't know about you, but I wish I'd learned that earlier in my career. Because at the beginning of my real estate career, that first 9 years, all I wanted to do was sell. I had no idea what organized real estate was doing, didn't care. I did that fussing of, they don't sell as many houses as I do, so they have time for all that. And then the minute I got pulled in, I said, oh my gosh, that's what we do? I know. This is crazy. And so I had to jump into super humble mode of, I don't know diddly squat about this, and I have to learn because it's going to impact my clients. And in the future, it's going to impact my whole community. And we look at this in relation to what realtors are facing right now with all the legal challenges to the way we do business, which we have great defense because we are completely consumer friendly. Yes. But the number of agents out there that are disconnected from the information because they think somebody else is going to handle it, y'all. Yep. Nobody else can handle your social media. Let's just do that. You can't. Oh God, don't get me started. Me or Barb on your social media. And we're glad we like the shares. I mean, share away. Yeah, share away. Save it, whatever. But the impact doesn't come from us being on your social feed. It comes from you. And the 1,000%. Same with our legal challenges and with whatever's happening with real estate in your local market. We are glad to help, but your power is so great, and many of y'all haven't even tapped into it. And so that's why we talk about the policy work that realtors do all the time under our packets.
is so much more about policy than anything else. And for the record, on the lawsuits, you can always get your updates at competition.realtor. And that's not for your broker or your association exec or your local president. That's for you if you're in real estate. And by the way, if you're not in real estate, let's just say you're a normal consumer who wandered up on the show because you have fallen into the rabbit hole of oddball episodes. Hey, you can always go read it too, because the public needs to know.
Agreed.
Realtors are not what they saw with Annette Bening in American Beauty, because that was a gross image of us.
Yep.
And the only good episode of Modern Family I saw with Phil Dunphy was that one where he was showing his father-in-law's wife. I can't remember the names of actors and actresses, the beautiful one with the hair, and the lady was outside of her school zone and had some bad permits, and he called her out for it. That was a good episode, but otherwise he was kind of a buffoon. And that's not who realtors are. Realtors are so thoughtful about their clients. All we would implore you is take that care that you give to each buyer and seller and expand it just a wee tiny bit out into all of real estate, because if you're good at conducting the practice, you're going to be great when you dial into the profession.
Absolutely. 1,000. I wish someone would ask me sooner. I mean, I'm a perfect example of, I wish someone would have asked me sooner. I wish I would have known sooner. I feel very conflicted that I didn't really get involved in organized real estate until 2011, I would say 15, before I got super active. And I've been licensed since 2003. And it's like, come on. And then the last thing I would leave you with in that front is, you think people like Leigh and I are crazy. And most people do, because we kind of are to a point. But, there's something called make your trip work for you. There's something called relationship building with other realtors. And that's why I love what we do, because we get to go make a difference in our industry. We get to go advocate, and we build relationships with other really, really, really cool realtors across the United States, to where I need anything in any city and anywhere, I've got a friend to call. Whether that's I need something for myself or I need something for a client. And let's face it, we all know one of the beauties of our industry is to be able to give those referrals across the nation to our colleagues. And I think it's one of the biggest gifts in our industry. And I don't think enough, real estate professionals understand that most industries can't do that. Attorneys can't do that. Insurance people can't do that. Financial advisors can't do that, but we can. But we can. And we should understand that. You volunteer the way Leigh and I do, you build those relationships and you get that business. And it's really, 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 it's a really cool reward, if you will, because we're there to do work. It's a really good added benefit of what we do. So,
but it's also how you can find the attorney and the insurance agent. And
absolutely.
Call the realtor and say, hey, who you got? Because good realtors have that great trusted advice.
They know good people.
Speaking of which, did you get that listing that I sent you for my guy whose mother-in-law needed to sell her house? Did you?
Mother-in-law used the friend in the neighborhood, type thing. He tried.
Well, we tried to help her.
We tried. So
hey, it was worth an opportunity, because how exciting!
It was absolutely worth an opportunity.
Well, you helped this person, and
yes, it was very, very exciting.
Which is also a reminder: sometimes you don't get everything you strive for, but it never makes it less exciting to have an opportunity or an at-bat, since you're a baseball mom. I
am.
At-bats. But I got to ask you, before we jump off the volunteer track, how did you get roped into volunteering? Who tapped your shoulder, and what caused them to do that?
So my story is actually, I had an ethics case filed against me. in 2011, a very difficult, frivolous case full of lies, which I will always tell realtors the reason you need to be so cautious and so careful is because one miscommunication like we had, it was a miscommunication led to, frankly, me having health challenges and lots of other things. But after that was over, after I was exonerated of all charges, I took the MLS traffic school class. The director of professional standards said, I really liked the way you handled yourself. Will you be a member of our grievance committee? We need people like you. I joined the grievance committee. After a couple of years on that, Christine McGowan tapped me on the shoulder and said, will you apply for my board? I don't make the decisions. It's a nominating committee, but will you apply? I'd love to have someone like you. We need fresh new voices. And that was 2015. And I hate to say the rest is history, but really is history. Encouraged to do my first contribute a president circle very early on and was told what it meant and why. And my life was forever changed by that event and really understanding our advocacy side of our business. And then, now it's just who I am. I don't look at it as a chore. I don't look at it as a job. I just look at it as this is what we do. We change lives.
Well, and my favorite part of that story, there's two favorite parts. The first one is that you had leadership in your local realtor association who was actively seeking to have new people at the table. I think that speaks volumes about the staff and volunteer leadership of the past, that was their goal was, hey, you seem cool. Let's get you in the room too. And they didn't know what you were going to bring or not bring to the table, because sometimes we invite people in and they sit there and they turtle shell and don't say anything. And man, do we miss out when they do that. And so you obviously reciprocated by giving. But my favorite part of all that, and I didn't know this whole piece of your story, that you took a negative entree and turned it into, I actually belong here. And so many people, if they start off with that negative, we call it the brown envelope, because those of us that have been in a long time, that's how you used to get your complaints, was in a brown envelope, and now they come in email. But you would see that your heart would sink, because nobody wants to do things wrong. They would like to do things correctly. And frankly, nobody really wants personal responsibility, but you leaned in and
changed my life.
Even in a falsehood, you didn't let it color your opinion of the organization. And I love that, because too often we don't get things going our way. Well, the organization sucks. Well, the organization didn't suck. You had a complaint that you handled in the way it was designed. And if you're a member of the public, you should know that when an ethics complaint happens, it's heard by a panel of peers. So we have an opportunity to defend ourselves, because we're innocent until proven guilty, in front of our peers. I had this conversation last week. I was teaching the code of ethics, and the room did not like the case study we looked at. They did not like the outcome. They were opposed. They were grumpy about it, arms crossed, and that was the wrong decision. And I said, look, if you don't like that decision, you need to be in the grievance panels and in the room, so that your voice could counterbalance somebody else's, so that the best decision can come forward. And I think this is probably the best example ever of why volunteering matters, because I'm not sure that today's person wants to go beyond having a complaint filed as much as they perhaps should lean into it. So
what I would say is, at that point, I didn't know what my association did. I didn't know what the code of ethics was. I had no idea what it really meant to be a realtor until I walked into that brown manila envelope on my desk, and my husband's. Side story, it was actually him that had the miscommunication, stamped confidential all over it. So the rest is history.
All right. So in your years of working with actual buyers and sellers, because let's never forget that while you do own your boutique, and while you are still on the road traveling and instructing, you are still that trusted advisor.
I am.
So, and I know you gave us the wholesome, I'm a godmother story. I want to know the crazy one, the one that we will be sitting down at a table and you say, look, y'all are never going to believe what happened. I want to hear that story. Which one is that?
Oh my goodness. My best friend was selling her house. And it was the first time I've ever had to call an attorney to figure out how to do a disclosure. California, we are a heavy disclosure state. We have to disclose everything. I mean, if someone farted in the house, I think we have to disclose it. Thought she had ghosts in her house, was very convinced she had ghosts in her home, and was adamant that things move in her house. And she had gone to the point of having it blessed. And I'll never forget the day I had to call my attorney and say, how do I disclose this? How do I say the seller thinks there's ghosts in her house?
Does she say?
The seller thinks things move in their house. Then we're going to be like, is it a foundation problem? Is it? So the attorney said to me, no, you're going to put down on the disclosures that the home has been blessed. Okay, I have to put down that the home has been blessed. And I said, I can't say ghosts. And he's like, well, I don't think we should use ghosts on a disclosure. So yeah, I've dealt with that. I've dealt with probably my other craziest thing was when I had to go to jail to get listing documents signed, because the trustee was in Women's County lockup. So, honestly, all my stories are boring.
I mean, the trip to the jail is just a field trip. I'm so this ghost story. So if the attorney said it's blessed, well, what does that mean to a buyer who's atheist or agnostic or of a religion that doesn't do blessings? I mean, the people who sage houses definitely come from California.
Well, I agree with that. But this was also probably 12 years ago. And it was the only way that him and I could think of to do a proper disclosure to allow the buyer the opportunity to ask questions. Like if they really were concerned, they would say, why did she have the home blessed? And then of course I would have to answer with, she thinks she has ghosts in her home. But to just put down the seller thinks there's ghosts in her home and that her home's haunted, I didn't really know how to say that. So we decided that the home was blessed.
So full disclosure, friends, in North Carolina, our disclosure document is this big. California is this big, and we don't make you talk about your ghosts. They are not a material. But with all of that being said, what is the best way for somebody to find you if they are looking for your coaching, instructing, selling, brokering, all the different versions?
All the things, yeah, there is a lot of versions of Barb, literally. So Instagram's my jam, at Barb Betts, very simple, just my name. My website is barbetts.com for all my speaking and training. And then of course, I would be remiss, I do service the Southern California area. I do still sell houses every day with my husband. And we're always here if you need anything in the Southern California area.
So do you own Barbara Betts too, just in case?
I do still own Barbara Betts. Early in my career, that was my domain.
I think if you didn't, Phil Hawkins would be parking on it and charging you for it.
He would be.
Thank you so much for
Thank you, beautiful.
Time with me on the podcast, but I know our listeners have enjoyed this and they really appreciate all of your different levels of expertise, as I do. So I hope you inspired somebody to go get more focused in their social game and that they're thinking about real estate in a deeper and broader way as well. So thank you for being
here. I love it. You are very welcome, my dear. Thank you for everything you do for the industry. You are a shining star.
Friends, you know what to do now. Say something nice about Barb in the comments. And in fact, if you want to make fun of Harold, we appreciate
You go right ahead.
Loves hearing Harold Betts. That's his pride and joy. Click like, click subscribe. And most importantly, circle back with us because you never know what we'll have on Crazy Shit.
Bye, beautiful. I appreciate you.
Okay, now don't forget to go try Follow Up Boss so that your business can continue to expand in professionalism and then you can meet some more crazy people yourself. I really appreciate Follow Up Boss sponsoring this episode, but mainly I appreciate them for giving y'all double the free trial time with no credit card required. So make sure you go to followupboss.com/crazy and then let me know what you think. I'll see you guys next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.